evening and welcome to the program Service to Humanity, a sponsored program of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development to update you on its activities. I am Habiba Zoksok, your regular anchor. Our program tonight will take a look at the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act signed into law in January 2019, the subsequent establishment of the Commission and role of the Ministry in giving persons with disabilities a voice and a place in the nation. In addition to this, we have success stories from the National Social Investment Programs as it continues to touch lives and lift Nigerians out of poverty. All of this coming your way after this timeout. Don't go away.
Across the 6 geopolitical zones.
They should use this money for what it is meant for, previously to take care of their family.
In 36 states and the FCT. Over 6.4 million of Nigerians poorest of the poor in about 1.3 million households receive conditional cash transfers of 5,000 naira monthly under the Household Upliftment Program of the federal government. Their joy knows no bound.
And the government very well because they did work for us.
It helped me to do any other thing, my family.
Reducing absolute poverty, promoting shared prosperity through the Conditional Cash Transfer Initiative. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in service to humanity.
Minister of Humanitarian Affairs urges states to work with the annual flood outlook for 2021 to avoid unnecessary loss of lives. This and other stories in our first segment, Management Diary. Keep watching.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, has appreciated Japan for supporting Nigeria's disaster management and risk reduction initiative. She made this known during the induction of 9 units of rescue vehicles fully loaded with rescue materials and 4 units of water purifiers donated by Japan to Nigeria. The minister encouraged NEMA to make good use of the equipment.
May I especially appreciate the government and people of Japan on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria for the donation of disaster risk reduction specialized equipment for search and rescue being inducted today. The importance of standard equipment in the conduct of critical search and rescue operations cannot be overemphasized. I hereby charge NEMA to accept and make judicious use of the equipment in the effective service delivery.
The event, which was organized by the National Emergency Management Authority, was also held to present NEMA's annual report to the minister in line with the extant law that requires the agency to publicly present their annual report in the first quarter of every succeeding year. The minister commended NEMA for all the successes recorded during the year despite the disasters faced, including insurgency, banditry, windstorms, end-SARS violence and the coronavirus pandemic, urging the agency to extend the successes of 2020 as it continues to provide relief to victims and those made vulnerable by disasters.
The successes you have recorded.
In a similar development, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has charged state governments to mount vigorous campaigns so that people who realize the damage floods can cause and take precautions. She was speaking at the 2021 release of Annual Flood Outlook presentation to the public by the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency under the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. She was represented at the occasion by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Disaster Management, Musa Bungudu. Bungudu revealed that the ministry had been working closely with stakeholder agencies to design and develop a national multi-sectoral flood emergency preparedness and response plan to serve the nation better in case of flood disasters.
The plan shall provide institutional framework and enhance coordination towards flood risk management in the country, and a technical stakeholder review of these zero drafts is scheduled to take place at the end of this month.
Also speaking at the occasion, the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, retired Air Vice Marshal Muhammad, called for the strengthening of multi-sectoral approaches to disaster risk mitigation. He said advocacy and engagement with stakeholders in 2020 greatly reduced the loss in 2020.
NEMA, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, will step down the information in the 2021 annual flood outlook to all states and vulnerable communities to ensure we prepare and mitigate flood this year.
A multisectoral committee comprising members drawn from 10 ministries, departments, and agencies was inaugurated recently by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Its role is to look at every aspect of the National Homegrown School Feeding Program and ensure that it runs seamlessly, achieving the objectives of its design and intent. Let's take a brief overview of the Homegrown School Feeding Program and the inauguration of the committee. Do stay tuned.
The National Homegrown School Feeding Program is one of the 4 clusters of the National Social Investment Program. The program offers 1 free nutrient-rich meal a day to public school pupils in primary 1 to 3 across the states of the Federation. Designed as a collaborative effort between the federal, state, and local governments, the program has 3 broad objectives, namely, to boost nutritional status, encourage enrollment, as well as promote local economic activities. The program was also drawn to encourage over 13 million out-of-school Nigerian children back to school. The COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent closure of schools in 2020 interrupted the implementation of the school feeding program, even though a modified version requiring take-home rations was implemented in the 3 states worst hit by the pandemic, namely Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja.
It touches.
Given that the program cuts across several sectors of the economy, with the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs providing coordination, the Ministry on the 19th of May 2021 inaugurated a multi-sectoral committee for the National Homegrown School Feeding Program.
Inaugurate this team.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk, was represented at the event by the Coordinator, National Social Investment Programs, Dr. Umar Binder.
If you reflect today,
in his remarks before inaugurating the committee, Dr. Binder called on stakeholders to recognize the ingenuity of the present administration in creating a ministry dedicated to poverty eradication, coordination and intervention. This, he said, is a step towards institutionalizing social intervention programs in the country.
This is the very first time that we have a ministry dedicated to poverty eradication in Nigeria. The reason for this is that we want an institution that is sustained so that whatever we do are coordinated.
Dr. Binder went on to explain the role of the ministry in coordinating responses of various ministries towards solving poverty problems and the place of the National Social Investment Programs in addressing poverty issues.
Brief picture of
Dr. Umar Binder then charged members of the committee to play their roles effectively and work together for the success of the program and the overall development of the Nigerian child.
You are the custodian of a plan on how to fund it. It is important for you to sit around the table to understand this poverty equation, to understand this school feeding program, so that you can be able to ensure that it is funded properly, it is funded on time, and so on and so forth.
Members of the Multisectoral Committee are drawn from 10 ministries, departments and agencies, namely Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Agriculture and Rural Development, Information, Culture and Tourism. Others are Women Affairs, Industry, Trade and Investment, Water Resources, National Bureau of Statistics, and Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC.
The National Homegrown School Feeding Program is one of the four keystone.
Earlier in her opening remarks, National Team Leader for the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, Aisha Dugil, urged all members from the various MDAs to work together to achieve the objectives of the program.
This program has been designed as a collaborative effort between the tiers of government, so the federal, state and local governments, each having its own responsibilities towards realizing the objectives of the program, which include boosting nutritional status of pupils, encouraging school enrollment, attendance and participation, promoting local economic activities. As we can see from these objectives, the school feeding program is truly a cross-cutting one by design. It has links to health, education, the economy, agriculture, labor, and so on. It is therefore important that we utilize a multisectoral approach in its implementation and also its planning. This means that we must work with our colleagues from the various relevant line ministries to truly jointly realize these objectives.
Giving goodwill messages from their various MDAs, members of the committee promised their full support in achieving the laudable objectives of the Homegrown School Feeding Program.
With this school feeding, truly, it is a noble cause. It is a very important sector that will encourage parents and the children to go to school, because they know that when they go to school, there is food waiting for them there, and they will concentrate. They will be happy to go to school.
I want to urge all the new members of the national team, under the able leadership of Aisha, that we should come down and work for our children. When the children are healthy, the family is healthy.
Senior Special Advisor to the President on the National Social Investment Programs in the Office of the Minister, Dr. Muhammad Nasir Mahmood, gave the closing remarks.
On behalf of the Minister, most sincerely thank our partner ministries and agencies for honoring our invitation and for being here, and also for seeing the wisdom and collaborating with us in the implementation of this very laudable initiative of Mr. President. To ensure the integration and subsequent operation of this committee, the National Homegrown School Feeding Program will be taken to another level of success and tremendous achievement.
Welcome back from that break. The 2011 World Disability Report states that there are about 25 million persons with at least one disability in Nigeria. This means that about 15% of Nigerians currently live with disability. For a long time, however, these groups of persons have protested being sidelined in the affairs of the country. In 2019, there was a major breakthrough in their struggles as the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Bill was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari. How did the journey go? What are the highlights of this act? And what is the ministry doing to keep the momentum by ensuring that persons with special needs continue to have their interests protected? These questions and more will be answered in our next segment. Don't go away.
There are 6 different clusters for persons with special needs. These are persons with visual impairment, hearing impaired, speech impaired, physically handicapped or challenged, intellectually impaired, and those with spinal cord injuries. For these persons, their effective care, development, and eventual integration into the mainstream of the Nigerian society so that they can contribute their quota to the economic, social, and political development of the country is the responsibility of government. Over the years, however, persons with special needs suffer various challenges that make them unable to compete favorably with the rest of society. It is for this reason that the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act was pursued by stakeholders until it was eventually passed and signed into law in January 2019.
When now?
The Director, Special Needs in the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, which oversees the affairs of PWDs, speaks on the journey towards the actualization of the Act.
Passage of the Disability Act was really a tug of war. It took 18 years, 18 long years for struggle, for lobbying, for advocacy by different stakeholders, which also include those with disability. So they were even more at the forefront. So it took a good 18 years for us to, pass that bill into an act. And as you know, it was passed when now, 23rd of January 2019.
The Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2019 has several provisions, including prohibition of discrimination against any person on the grounds of disability, access to public buildings and all physical structures through provision of lifts, ramps and other accessibility aids, while a period of 5 years was offered already existing public buildings and structures to ensure compliance. The right to free, inclusive and appropriate education and liberty, including free education to secondary school level, provision of educational assistive devices, incorporation of Braille, etc. Free treatment for all persons with mental disability in all public institutions. A person with disabilities shall work on an equal basis with every other individual, while all public organizations are to reserve at least 5% of employment opportunities for persons with disability. The Act also establishes the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and through the efforts of the Minister, the Commission was established and the Governing Board inaugurated. The Humanitarian Ministry supervises the Commission in carrying out its responsibilities.
As our role, we do over, side function for them. First and foremost, we provide, there's policy guidance, policy direction being provided by the ministry. So there's also financial support. So all the budget of the commission, before it goes through this ministry for it to get to the National Assembly. So the ministry also helped them to attract funds apart from the budgetary allocations. And I told you we do prototype programs and projects for them to key into it and then get started. We also build capacity for them.
James Lalu is the Executive Secretary of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities. During the 2020 edition of the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, he acknowledged that there wouldn't have been a commission without the efforts of the Minister, Sadia Umar Farouk.
The Honorable Minister for Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, I would like to address her in another way as the mother of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. I think what she has done is something that will remain indelible in the heart of persons with disabilities in Nigeria forever. When she came in, immediately when she assumed office as the minister, the first thing she took as priority is the establishment of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. I remember when I was watching her on TV from Jos. Last International Day for Persons with Disabilities. Her commitment was the establishment of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. She lived up to it, she kept it, and today we have the commission, and I am here, standing here from Jos to Abuja.
Apart from providing policy direction for the Commission, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs is doing a lot more in promoting the welfare of persons with disabilities, including skills acquisition and training, job creation, amongst other interventions.
It was in February, some IWDs were also trained in income generating activities for the Southeast. So each of those groups were given 100,000 each after the training. They were trained on how to repair phones. They were trained on how to produce cosmetics like Azai, like detergent, like pomade. They were also trained on fish farming. Fish farming, repairing of phone, and cosmetics I've mentioned. And they were given a grant again of 100,000 each to establish these businesses.
For you, to youth, and future of family.
This morning now, you build a very new success into my life. This morning that I've collected today, I did not expect it.
My business will be very big.
I'm very grateful to the federal government for giving me this money.
The program is Service to Humanity, highlighting the activities of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development as it coordinates humanitarian responses in Nigeria. The successful implementation of the National Social Intervention Programs is a priority for the ministry. Evidence of a successful system are scattered all over the country. Tonight, we bring you more stories of beneficiaries from Kuje Area Council in Abuja. Let's keep watching.
Up, up, up! Better don't come! Better don't come!
These women are all part of a community in Kuje, Abuja. They are members of Mercy Cooperative Group under the Household Upliftment Program of the federal government, otherwise called Conditional Cash Transfer.
It depends at times.
Fatima Idris Chalibu is their leader. She speaks on how their cooperative came about and how the cooperative functions.
Before this Better Don't Come started coming to this community, I was buying charcoal in 1 bag, 2 bags as at then, though it wasn't easy. But as soon as the program started, with the money given to us, they addressed us, they told us how the money will be spent, that we should enter into group contribution, of which we did. And at the end of the day, I was the group leader. I was the first person that collected my own, so I was able to buy up to 50 bags. As at the time I collected the money. So from there, time to time, every month, I will be paying the contribution so that it will be given to another person to enable the person do his or her own activity.
For Fatima, the scheme has helped her and other members of the cooperative to set up businesses and help their families.
Before now, some of them, due to one problem or the other, their children were not able to go to school. It was when the money started coming, some of them were able to put their children in school. Though it's not that their husbands are not working, they are working, but the salary has not been paid. So many of them are site workers, while some, they are security workers. So you find out that what is coming out at the end of the month is not taking up anything. So when this money started coming and we entered into contribution, so with the little trade that some of them are doing, they started helping the family by putting their children in school, helping the children in one vocational training or the other. So it has been helping everyone, and some of them were able to put up one business or the other.
Salamatu Yusuf Jimo is a beneficiary and a member of the Mercy Cooperative. She is grateful for the scheme because she was able to acquire a new grinding machine as a result of the scheme.
I thank God for government when help us like this. So I have engine when I'm using it before, but now as the engine they give me wahala. When I get this one, I thank God. I use the money, buy another engine. They enjoying it. So every day she will give me a little change so that I can use it with my children.
She opens up on how the scheme has really helped her in sustaining her family.
I help us at all. I help us because when we get money inside, if I using it buy anything, now me and my family we make use of it. So the money will help us.
Salamatu is thankful to government for this gesture and would want the scheme expanded to include other women who haven't benefited.
In fact, if make government try still help us and the others will never benefit, make them benefit too. So may it help us because this money help.
The Conditional Cash Transfer Initiative continues to empower women everywhere it is being implemented. We say kudos to the federal government for this initiative and to the National Cash Transfer Office for defying the odds to reach these women in their remote locations. And it is on that note that we wrap up on this episode of Service to Humanity. Until I come your way with another exciting episode of the program next week, good night.